Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new action comedy horror film ZombieCON Volume 1. And this is from writer-director Kyle Valley, and this film focuses on a group of cosplaying friends trigger a zombie apocalypse and are forced to traverse a zombie-infested Los Angeles to save their loved ones. And this film is close to 2 hours and has a lot of space to be able to explore this idea, and it does spend a decent amount of time setting up this group of friends who are solid and interesting enough, and I think a group of friends that at least we could get behind and understand their frustrations of being bullied and such like that. It's just there's so much setup that it feels like with all of that setup we should have been able to have deeper, more interesting characters, but they're serviceable. It works. And I think the cast does a fine job. You can tell this is a lower budget film, and they're not the most polished of performers, but I think they embody these characters well enough, and some of them quite authentically, for us to feel that connection. This film, in terms of its idea, seems campy, and it's labeled as a horror comedy. Sure, it has some funny moments, but I feel like this film visually goes for a very dark, gritty, grimy kind of feel. And that feels quite a bit in contrast and conflict with this idea of this horror comedy, campy idea of a Comic-Con convention turning into a bunch of zombies. And totally, I don't know if it's really reckoned with perfectly, and maybe the humor doesn't quite hit as much, but it does certainly have some dark, eerie atmosphere throughout the film. It does not have as much zombie elements as you might think for this whole 2-hour film, and some of those moments are more obscured by darkness and shadow, and you can tell this is like a lower budget film and might not be able to really lean into those elements as well. It takes until really deep into the climax of this film for us to really get those really big payoff moments of the genre elements of this film. And on top of that, there are some good emotional beats, and I think the film has some potentially interesting things that it does in terms of what we expect in terms of zombie film tropes, especially with our one character who goes through an interesting challenge, especially in a climax being confronted with the life of a loved one. And I think this could have been much leaner, much more focused in terms of tone, but there's still enough here for you to enjoy, to get some of that genre satisfaction out of it, and have a good time. It's not perfect, and there definitely could have been some leaning down and more focusing on what this film's really trying to be and what it's really trying to go for. And, but when it does really get there, it does have some satisfying, makeup and some really creepy imagery and stuff like that, and offers up, a rock-solid group of characters for us to invest in and get behind throughout this journey. They could have been deeper, they could have been more interesting, but they're empathetic enough for us to get behind their journey throughout this film. But those are my thoughts on ZombieCON Volume 1. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.